Nothing comes easy. You had to struggle. And this profession is a passion to me.
A lot of us are, working and handling households as well. So, was it difficult as a woman being a gynecologist?
Quality of time you spend with your family and the kids is more important than the quantity of time you spend.
It's very inspirational that at the age of 75, you have so much energy and, you turn up at work every day sharp at 9.
Yes. Dr.
Yes.
Ramesh comes at 7 o'clock in the morning. We start our laparoscopic surgeries.
You're very successful, doctor.
And I'm a very
There's no
proud
doubt.
mother. I really feel women should work. And I tell them, if you conceive and have a baby, I'll be more happier than
Yes.
you.
Hi everyone. So we are here beginning our first episode of our podcast, and today we have the ever graceful and always elegant Dr. Punita Rangraj with us. She's one of the oldest obstetricians of our country. Let's talk to her.
I finished my undergraduation in the year 1973. Maybe I sound very ancient. I'm from BMC, Bangalore Medical College, because those days there were no private medical colleges. It was only government colleges were there.
If people don't know, BMC is Bangalore Medical College,
Yes.
and one of the prestigious colleges Karnataka has,
Yes.
and the topmost,
Yes,
I want to
yes,
say.
it's a very prestigious thing to pass out from BMC. And I finished my post-graduation in the year 1980. And from then on, I started my hospital, Cambridge Hospital. And from then on, the journey goes on.
A lot of us are, working and handling households as well. So, was it difficult as a woman being a gynecologist as well for you?
Yeah, it is difficult. As I told you, it is a real tightrope walking. But if you know how to manage your time, I always feel with the children also, the quality of time you spend with your family and the kids is more important than the quantity of time you spend. A real good quality time, the children don't feel neglected. They know the mother is a busy doctor and she's trying to make her, both ends meet. And it is definitely all right. And to top it up, you need to have a very, very supportive husband.
Yes.
That way, I've been very, very fortunate that my husband, Dr. Rangraj, was there like a pillar to me. And he was so very supportive. Even in the middle of the night, there is a call for delivery at 2 o'clock. That time, I couldn't afford a driver. He used to drive me to the hospital and wait in the
Yes.
car till I finish my delivery and come. That is how nothing comes easy. You had to struggle. And this profession is a passion to me. It is not like a profession. That is why maybe at the end of most probably 50 years of my service, still I'm passionate about it. I'm still continuing to do it, and I'm still teaching my juniors, and I'm very happy doing it.
It's very inspirational that at the age of 75, you have so much energy and, you turn up at work every day sharp at 9.
Yes. May not be at 9 at times. Maybe whenever there's a surgery, I start by 7 o'clock also.
See, yeah.
No, Dr.
Yes.
Ramesh comes at 7 o'clock in the morning. We start our
Exactly.
laparoscopic surgeries. And it goes on till 8, 9 o'clock. As long as you love your profession, you don't feel tired. Even
True.
my patients at the end of the day, 9 o'clock, they come and say, Doctor, how is that? Even at 9 o'clock in the night, you're still smiling. I say, that's because I love my profession. Otherwise, I have no business to sit here.
Yes, truly. So, working women, as you pointed out, that there's a lot of times where women feel that they're not spending enough time with their kids and feel guilty about it. So, did you ever feel guilty that you were not able to spend time with your kids?
If I say no, I am telling a lie. Yes, I used to feel guilty many a times. They will be having their exam the next day and there will be a call in the night. I won't be able to sit with them to do their homework. Yes, those kind of guilts were there. When the child is sick, even when the child is sick, you have to leave the child in the
Yes.
house and go for your profession. All those guilt was definitely there. But at the end of the day, even today I ask my children, do you feel that I'm neglected? They say, no, whatever you have done is for us. We have never felt neglected. So if you manage a balance, I don't think
There's
it's
so many
difficult.
times when I also have faced issues where your own is sick, but you are taking care of some other patient and not being there for your own when their health issues are there, or your father is ill or mother is ill, but you are there in the hospital taking care of somebody else's father. I think it it is a sense of gratification also that you're doing something for somebody,
Of course,
and that covers and protects your family as well.
of course, that is our profession, Priya. Sacrifice. Without sacrifice and dedication, you can never become a good doctor. I have done that many a time. My husband was sick, my children are sick. I used to leave them and go, but of course that guilt will be there. But you are doing a profession, you can't afford to neglect. One patient is in pain, she is also another human being. You have to balance it. How to balance it? If you balance it well, I think it should go on. Today, maybe to a certain extent, I am a little successful doctor.
You're
And I
very
am-
successful doctor.
and I'm a very
There's no
proud
doubt.
mother. My children have done extremely well, and I really feel I've done justice for
Yes.
both.
Yes, true. That brings me, how have things changed? A patient's perspective towards doctors, has it changed over the years?
I think it's really changed. That's what I could say. See, in our days when we started our practice, definitely we were next to God. Whatever we say is a God's word. When we tell them this is your problem, this is how you'll have to take the medicine, this is the surgery you have to go for, they say, doctor, whatever you say. That is the confidence they had in us. With the present generation, because I've seen almost 3 generations now, present generation, that much of belief and confidence in the doctor is gone. Even if you tell something, immediately they go sit outside and they Google. They come back and tell the Google says this, and you are giving me this medicine. So it is like that. That confidence level has come down.
It's an era of second opinions,
Second
isn't it?
opinion, Googling, and all those. In those days, it was not like that. I think we had a glorious life, glorious life, but we had to adjust to everything. Those days, no, that was a old school, now it's a new school. The new generation comes and asks so many questions, looking at the Google. Yes, sometimes they're relevant, sometimes they're irrelevant, and we had to convince them with everything. That's how it goes on.
Now with the social media and a lot of health coaches, or people who don't have professional degrees are giving gyan on social media, and a lot of them have a lot of followers, some in millions, so they are called influencers. But should it limit to other influencing? Should it enter the healthcare influencing as well? What is your take on it?
I definitely don't think they should influence the healthcare department, because it is very vast. A lot of knowledge is required. We know what is do, what you don't do, what is good for you, what is not good for you. I definitely feel the public should not get influenced by a non-medical person.
Yes, because I came across something called as endometriosis diet recently. We know that people or women with endometriosis have excruciating pain and they suffer. And as it progresses, the disease just gets worse and worse. But if somebody is sitting at home and getting a diet plan, which is very convenient, right? You don't have to go to a doctor, you don't have to, and also there is one feeling that I'm not taking medications, I'm curing it by just eating well. And it just progresses and worsens. And when she reaches the doctor after probably everything has failed, the disease has already progressed to a worse stage. So, what would you like to tell people regarding how to choose? There are very good, health plans, or somebody is giving you a good diet as well. How to choose, or how to be careful about who you follow and what you follow?
See, in case of this diet plan and all that, I feel yes, most probably in our cases of obesity and PCODs and such things and all that, yes, they can definitely go to for a diet plan and how to reduce weight, what to take, what not to take, say for instance for diabetes, for polycystic ovaries or for obesity. But getting a diet plan for cases like endometriosis and all that, it is definitely a no-no. They should go to a professional help. And then if they want to follow the diet, let them follow. Nobody
Yes.
says no. But at the same time, proper medical line of treatment is definitely required.
Health diet is a holistic, I always tell my patients, but diet and what you eat is what you are, but it helps you holistically. There is no diet which targets a particular disease as such and makes you get rid of it.
Exactly.
It just helps.
Yes, exactly. That people should be aware, and they should not depend only on that.
Yes.
They should, maybe they can do that also. At the same time, a proper professional help is definitely required.
So a lot of, I mean, you have seen so many births, right? And what are the common myths this postpartum women come with?
Yeah, especially in our country, there's lots of postpartum myth. And there is a grandmother, there's a mother, and as soon as the lady delivers, they tie her with a scarf because they think the air should not enter into the ears, and they put some earplugs, and there is lots of restriction about diet. She should not eat salt, and she should not eat spices, and she should not eat dal, and they make the woman starve sometimes. My patients come and cry, doctor, will you please tell them that I need to drink a little more water?
Yes.
And I'm not able to eat. They are giving real insipid food. That is another myth regarding the diet. And another thing is most probably isolate that woman in one place, and she should not be socializing with anybody else. And the third thing is immediately as soon as she is delivers, they tie her with a tight cloth on the abdomen, thinking that it will it will expand. By tying a cloth, she will not get this thing. Of course, it may give us support,
Yeah.
but I don't think that is going to help her to have a
Yes.
flat stomach. She should do exercise. That is more important postpartum. They should do exercise. And also, she definitely needs a good nutritious food because she'll have to help herself to recover. And also, she is feeding the baby. That is very important. She should take some supplements. All that is very important. A few things I think that myth should go.
When do you think, when is the woman fit to go out after she delivers?
I feel 6 weeks is more than sufficient. I think she can start working. People say 6 months, doctor, I can't go for 1 year, give me a medical certificate. No,
Yes.
if there is a good help in the house, somebody to look after the child, and she can definitely start working. 6 weeks, I feel, it should be the ideal time.
So, one more thing, the social media influence, what I have noticed is regarding normal delivery. So, when women come to me, the first question when they get to know pregnant is, what can I do to have a normal vaginal birth? So, vaginal birth is so glorified. So, what is your take on normal versus cesarean birth?
Yeah, that is always there. So many a times, even when immediately as the patient gets pregnant, they'll say, will she have a normal delivery?
Yes.
It is not possible for any doctor to tell whether she'll have a normal delivery or she will have a cesarean section. I always tell them, see, I can tell you only in the 9th month, depending on the baby's weight of the baby, the position of the baby, and any other medical ailment the patient has, diabetic, hypertension, or anything like that. Only in the 9th month we will be able to tell you whether she can have whether I
Yes.
can try. I can't say I can try for a
Yes.
normal delivery or a cesarean section. And no doctor does an unnecessary cesarean section, which is a myth also. And nowadays, yes, the number of cesarean section has increased because the indications also have become more.
Yes.
Olden days, whatever may be, they used to try for a vaginal delivery in the bargain. Sometimes they used to lose the baby, sometimes they used to lose the mother. But nowadays, there is no chance for all those things. We can't afford to. So we'll have to take a guarded decision whether we can give her a normal vaginal delivery or she can go for a cesarean. So the belief in the doctor, listening to the doctor is very, very important. Another important point I want to tell here. Recent days, yes, people have got that opinion that the number of cesarean section, the rate of cesarean section has gone up. Yes, it has gone up to a certain extent, not because of the doctor. Most of the time, it is because of the pressure of the patient and the relatives.
Yes.
And no, the girls are so delicate, they don't like to take the pain. They say, doctor, I can't take the pain, please give me a cesarean section. Initially itself they say, write it there, I don't want a normal delivery, I want a cesarean section. Even if you try to convince them, no amount of convincing them does help.
There is another entity which has come up, the indication for cesarean section being at maternal request.
Yes.
So that is a new thing now. And also women who can't bear pain, there is always epidural,
Yeah.
which they can opt for.
Definitely. And also, I had to tell you this, patients in India, patients come with the idea that she need not have a vaginal delivery. We want a cesarean section at this particular day, on this particular time, because we have seen the horoscope. This is the best time, this is the best star, and you had to do it. So many times we had to yield to their pressure.
Yes. It's like the baby is born at certain muhurta, baby's life is going to be prosperous and he's going to become king of some nation.
Sometimes I tell them, okay, you have fixed the date, you have fixed the time, and I'm doing it.
Yes.
And later on, you come and tell me what the child has become. No, we were all born. None of our parents knew what time we are going to be born.
True.
And I don't think we are lacking anything like that. But that myth is there. So naturally, the rate of cesarean section goes high. It is not only because of the doctors, because we don't jump into cesarean section unnecessarily. With the proper indication, it is done. Sometimes it is because of the pressure also.
Yes. So there are physiotherapists, there are doctors who claim to give you all natural birth and vaginal delivery. Do you have something to say about them?
See, doing a good exercise, keeping yourself active, yes, it is necessary. Maybe you can do some pranayamas and breathing exercises, some squatting, those things can be done. But nobody can say, come to me, I will teach you this and you will have a normal vaginal delivery. I don't think it is possible.
When somebody asks me about this vaginal delivery, I tell them that I can tell you you have had vaginal delivery only after you have delivered vaginally, not before that. Even because so many times we see that there are so many complications in the baby, and indication of cesarean section is because of fetal distress. And who can predict that?
I know.
We can never do that in our profession. So if somebody is promising you that we are going to give you vaginal delivery, then it is a scam.
And so many patients, they come and ask, they would have had a previous cesarean section. Can you give a normal delivery this time? And can give, but it's very risky.
It's very
risky. I tell them, do you want to risk your life at the cost of trying for a normal delivery? There are a few normal deliveries are done,
Yes.
way back, but certain amount of risk is always there.
Definitely.
So I tell the patient, don't take the risk. Go for an elective section.
Yes. What would your advice be to young budding doctors who want to take up OBG?
Yeah, that is OBG is a very taxing profession. You need lots of dedication, lots of commitment, lots of sacrifice to become a good obstetrician. I'm not talking about gynec or an infertility specialist or a laparoscopic surgeon. I'm talking about obstetrician. There you'll have to dedicate yourself. There is no time. 24/7 you should be available. So only in that case you become an obstetrician. There are some people, yes, they have got their own choice. They don't like to take emergencies. They don't like to go in the night. So those people, even after becoming a gynecologist, they take up a different profession, different specialities like infertility,
Yes.
laparoscopic surgeries or a fetal medicine, those kind of things. That option is there. But the option is left to them. If you want to become an obstetrician, be prepared. That's it.
Again, so you are IVF is becoming very, very popular, and we are seeing a lot of more infertility cases than we used to see before. Probably, if you consider 10 couples who come for conception, we are seeing out of those 10 couples, minimum of 6 couples facing issues with conception. So, is it because of the trend, or does it have to do anything with the lifestyle what we are living?
Yeah, infertility is definitely on the rise. Basically, most probably because one is late marriage.
Yes.
They all get married very late, maybe 28, 30, 31, 32. Even after that, they are not ready for a child. They are more career oriented. They want to settle down in their profession and then try for a pregnancy. That is one of the reasons as they get older. So naturally, the ovary loses its capacity, and you produce less number of eggs, and maybe the quality of the egg is bad.
Yes.
And the male infertility, all those kind of things. That is one of the reasons. The second reason is lifestyle management. Most of the time it is a sedentary work, sitting on near the computer, working, untimely food, junk food, untimely sleep. Most of these women go in for a PCOD.
Yes.
And that is one of the other reasons for infertility. And men, again, stress, smoking, alcohol, these kind of things. Yes, we see lots of male infertility on the
Yeah.
rise. So these are the main reasons I feel we see more of infertility. And also they think, okay, even if it is late, it's okay. IVF is always there. I can go for an IVF. That should not be there. You should always try initially for a normal pregnancy. Only in a difficult cases, when you really cannot, when the doctor says IVF is the only alternate, then you go for an IVF.
So should you trust the doctor when the doctor says that IVF is a option for you? Because again, there is another bunch of people who say that if your doctor has suggested IVF, I am going to give you drugs or medications, or give you a plan where you will be able to conceive so-called naturally without any artificial methods. And there are a lot of myths that IVF causes cancer. These things are being propagated on social media, is what I have noticed, which deprives a couple of having their baby sooner, is
Yeah.
my belief.
The first thing is you should have confidence in your doctor.
Yes.
That is very, very important. You believe your doctor. If he says, see, I've gone through all your records, IVF is only go. There's no other go. You should believe the doctor, go for it. Nobody suggests you an IVF in the first instance itself. And regarding the side effects and the hormones and such things and all that, they are very, very minimal. When there is, you'll have to think of the pros and cons. When there is no other go for you to have a baby, you will have to have an IVF. And the myth telling that you have IVF, you will go for a ovarian cancer and all that, that goes to the extreme. I don't think they should encourage those
Yes.
kind of myths.
Or go to a doctor who you trust. You either
That's
trust your doctor
very
or
important.
go to a
I
doctor
tell my
you trust.
patients, they would have come with such a big file. They would have gone to 10 doctors
Yes.
and they would have consulted. Then I tell them, oh, I am the 11th person now, And I tell them, have confidence in one doctor, stick to that doctor. Because we also don't like to see the same face every month, telling I got my periods, I didn't get pregnant. No, we don't like it. We also will, oh, poor thing, she is coming for 2-3 months.
Yes.
I'll have to go to the next step. Okay, then I'll have to go to the next step. One doctor, when you stick on, when you have confidence, the doctor will definitely try to do your best. Moving from one center to another center, that's because one patient says, I went there, I had a baby, rush there. And doesn't happen. Then another person says, I went there, I had a baby, rush there. Doesn't work that way. Really doesn't work that way.
There are so many times that when we see infertility couples, when we meet them, it's like our personal success when they conceive, right? We feel
Exactly.
so elated that,
Exactly.
this person conceived. When you receive that text that UPT has been positive, or doctor, I got pregnant, it feels like, okay, you have done something good to the patient and you are also anticipating, with that. So your doctor, when you develop a relationship, is with you through the journey like your own. And that relationship breaks if you keep shifting and if you don't trust your doctor and you doubt everything the doctor says.
I know.
There is no point in visiting a doctor like that if you don't trust them.
Exactly. I tell my patients when they come for infertility, and I tell them, if you conceive and have a baby, I'll be more happier than
Yes,
you.
yes,
Because it is an
definitely.
achievement. It's an
Yes.
achievement. It gives so much of satisfaction. For you are young, Priya. In this thing, I tell my patients, see, at this age, it's not necessary for me to come and sit here and work.
Yes.
But it gives me so much of satisfaction when I give a baby for a childless couple. I'd feel when I go back home, I say, I've done something good today. That is the satisfaction. It is nothing money, nothing fame.
True.
No, that is the satisfaction. That's what we try to do.
Definitely. I think being obstetricians, that is a great gift we have, that we can enjoy this. We just don't treat patients who have illness. We get to witness this beautiful journey called pregnancy and are fortunate enough to deliver babies as well.
Exactly. It's such a big pleasure. My age, I have delivered 3 generations.
Yes.
3 generations. The grandmother would have delivered her mother. The mother would have delivered her. Now she comes for delivery.
Yes.
Say, doctor, she was born here only. That is why we brought her, because we want her baby also to be here. Gives so much of happiness. That shows that the trust they have. For
Yes.
3 generations, they have the trust in you.
Definitely.
That is very, very important, very satisfying.
Are doctors becoming more commercial these days?
That is to be honest, certain extent, not everybody, to certain extent maybe, yes. For every profession, there is a percentage of people. So it's not that you cannot say all doctors have become commercial. It's not so. It is definitely not so. Maybe one small chunk may be there. So I'll be lying if I say no. Maybe a small this thing. Every profession there's a black sheep somewhere, but not everybody. 99% of the doctors, I feel they're definitely not commercial, and they are really trying to do their profession properly.
One last message to all those working women, because everybody is striving hard to maintain their career or climb up the ladder in their career and also maintain the household and live childbirth and everything. It's like biological clock is also ticking, but you want to do other things as well. What is your one advice to those women out there?
I feel it is not impossible. I really feel women should work because they have so much of capacity and they are the multitasking. Women, I always feel they are more multitasking than men. To give an example, I used to tell them, we depict Kali, the goddess Kali. She has got 10 hands. Not that she had 10 hands. It depicts a woman can do 10 things together at a time. She's a multitasking person. That's what the goddess Kali depicts, that multitasking. We can definitely do it. Our career and our family, our profession, you can be a good wife, you can be a good mother, you can be a good daughter-in-law, you can be a good friend. It is definitely possible when you have that right kind of mind. You should put all your mind and soul to it. You can excel in every field. That's definitely possible.
And career and family are parallel lines. They will never intersect, so they have to go together.
They have to go together. It is like a parallel line. Priority, yes. They say priority is always the family. Yes, priority is the family. That is your destiny. But at the same time, you should give enough attention to your profession also when you have taken up this noble profession. It is possible. It is possible.
Thank you so much for doing this for me. And I think our audience also have gained so much knowledge through your experience. And thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Priya. Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely talking to you. I hope it will be little useful for the present generation.
Definitely.